It's great to have you with us from wherever you're tuning in from. For more information about Elevate Church or to contact us, head to our website elevatechurch.me and take us wherever you go by downloading our Elevate Church AU app. We hope this message inspires and helps you to take your next steps in your journey.
Great to have you all here this morning. 1st of December, hello, which means two things. Number one, it's no longer my birthday month. Boo. Or J-Max. Jess, G. It's now Jesus' birthday month, so, that's a thing, which is great. So we're leading up to Christmas Eve with Elevate, 6 p.m. Tuesday, 24th of December. We'll talk a bit more about that later on. Now, what we like to do at the beginning of each month is we like to celebrate some of what God's done and allowed us to be able to do with our digital impact, using both our online experience and our podcast. And actually, we've been getting an increasing number of people just reaching out to us saying, I've listened to your podcast, or I caught you on YouTube, and giving us some encouragement, telling us what it's meant to them. Just a few, just in this last month, we heard from George Obutu, who leads a church in Kenya. So Sasa George. We heard from Evans Manotti, who leads a small ministry in the western region of Kenya and also runs an orphanage. So Mungu Akabariki, which is Swahili for God bless you, Evans, if you didn't already know that. 2 months ago, I was in Melbourne attending and speaking at a leaders conference there. And day one, I had this guy come sprinting up to me in the morning. And I'm like, this guy better be bringing coffee. Well, this is a very terrifying moment. But actually, he came to say, it's Mark Pomeroy in the flesh. And I'm like, I know. And long story short, he's from him and his wife from a church in Melbourne. I'm part of their teaching team, and a few of them are part of our teaching team. And he's like, you're like our favorite preacher. I'm sure he meant other than the team from the church he's a part of. And he goes, we listen to you every single week. In fact, I'll prove it. Pulls out his phone, opens up his Spotify podcast, and there's Elevate Church right at the top of his favorite shows. And so that's Ian. So shout out to Ian from Gateway. It was pretty cool. And then we heard also from Anand. Now, Anand didn't say where he's from. I think the answer is India, I think. And Anand, he sent us through some photos of some of what he's doing. How cool is this, right? He sent us more. These are just a couple. He's actually going around, again, I think it's India, street preaching, and actually using the street preaching to launch churches. And he's now got multiple churches going in different parts of his area, running Sunday school, which is what you can see down the bottom as well. So they walks around with a portable guitar amplifier and a microphone. Come on now. Don't tell me that you need to have all the mod cons, the air conditioning, and to preach the gospel about Jesus. Don't tell me that, because 74 years ago, that's how this church started, and this guy's out there doing it now. Well, anyway, he sent this lengthy email through, and I won't read it all for you, but what happened was he listened to the first week of the series that we're currently teaching, Beyond Blessed, and in that particular message, we talked about that we're blessed with every spiritual blessing. Well, he memorized that, and then he went around and preached it to all of these. He's preaching our stuff. Plagiarism. To all these churches, and he talked about, and he's quoting all this stuff, and you said this, and you defined blessing as this, and I'm like, yeah, I did, wow. I couldn't remember, actually. Anyway, I just shared the last paragraph. Sir, that's me, I had shared all these things to my churches. They were very happy to know the spiritual truths. Your message was very much helpful to me and my churches. The Lord spoke to us through your message to focus on Christ. It had opened our eyes. Come on now. So anyway, let's thank them and welcome everyone joining us via our podcast. Boy, we love 2024. Okay, it's December. We already mentioned that. Anyone got any travel plans? Down south, interstate, maybe something exotic. Like, anyone got any travel plans? I mean, you got a one-way ticket to Colombia. I guess that counts. But, all right, yeah, good. So my brother-in-law and sister-in-law and our nephew, they've got some travel plans over the December-January break. They're going on an overseas adventure. First stop, London. Then popping over to Paris. Then making your way to Milan, darling. Then down to the southern part of Italy, which is where Louisa's family are from. Then over to Turkey, which is where my brother-in-law is from. Must be nice. I mean, here's the thing I know, and Louis and I have had the great fortune of traveling quite a lot. When you've got some cool trip coming up, it kind of makes you unshakable in the run-up. Because you're oh yeah, nearing the end of 2024. It's been a long year. It's been a tough year. A bit tired, but hey, no big deal. I've got that trip coming up. Woohoo! Or maybe someone cuts you off in traffic. Normally you'd get road rage. Maybe this is some of you get road rage walking behind people at the grocery store. Becky, I'm thinking of you in this particular moment. Becky gets road rage with his remote control when you have to type in the password on the TV, which I share your pain there, my brother. You'll be cut me off in traffic. I don't care. I'm going on a trip soon. I'm unshakable. You got deadlines coming up at work. Your boss is breathing down your neck. You better get this finished before that holiday. Yeah. Holiday. Woohoo. Come on. And it positively impacts your attitude. It positively shapes your perspective. That's the thing about good news that's coming up, that's guaranteed, that's promised in the future. Well, here's what I want to put it to us today, that we have even better news as followers of Jesus coming up, that if we get it and if we bank it and if we focus on it, it has the ability to make us unshakable in all circumstances, all challenges. And it goes something like this. You and I, if you're a follower of Jesus, have an inheritance. And here's the big idea today. If that's true, then no matter what gets in your way, God's best is on the way. That's because that's how inheritances work. They are promised to us ahead of time. So, if you've got your smartphone camera, you can scan this flow code. It's going to take you to this particular letter, which was a letter that Paul, one of the early church leaders, wrote to the church in Ephesus. We've been walking through a slice of this, chapter 1. This is considered one of the most exciting chapters of the entire Bible, and we're just going through it boom, but wow, whoa, what, wow. And Paul's going off, and now he's writing this to the church in Ephesus while he's in a Roman prison. Not a prison in Rome, but a prison that's run by the Romans, who were very, very good at captivity. Very, very good at making life miserable for people who didn't do what they were told. Romans used the carrot and the stick, probably as good as anyone ever in history. So, if I said to you, if you've been to Rome or you've seen some movies, La Dolce Vita, whatever it is, and I say, tell me your thoughts about Rome, and immediately you might go to, there's the Colosseum, and there's the architecture, and the beautiful churches, and then all these paintings, and then there's the food, the food, and then there's the coffee. If I say Rome, that's your thing. If you said to Paul, give me your thoughts about the Romans, he's not thinking cappuccino. He's thinking misery, pain, hardship, insufferable reality. And yet when he wrote this from a Roman prison, that's not the stuff he chose to focus on. In fact, he didn't even mention it. He didn't even mention his misery, his suffering. He only focused on God's blessings for him that he's done, that he's doing, that he will do, and God's blessings that he's reminding the church in Ephesus that are true for all Jesus followers. There's blessings that you've received, there's blessings that are works in progress, and there's more blessings to come in the future. That's Paul's default. He's not thinking cocktails on the cruise ship. He's thinking, I've got something even better. I'm focused on something even better than your overseas holiday. And he starts riffing on the reality that we're loved by God, that we've been chosen by God, that we've been adopted by God, that we've been placed in a spiritual family by God, that we've been forgiven. Hello, which by the way, none of us deserved it, but God gave it to us anyway, which is why it's such an incredible miracle. That God's got great plans and great purpose for our lives that line up with his good plans. Today, I want to talk about this idea of us having an inheritance. So here it is, verse 11. Furthermore, because again, this is the thing. The stuff I just mentioned, that's the stuff he's talked about. And then he goes, and as if that's not enough. Furthermore, like what? This is the steak knives bit. But wait, there's more. Okay, go on. Because we're united with Christ, we have received an inheritance from God. For he chose us in advance and he makes everything work out according to his plan. Now, I'm not going to take you to Bible college. I'm just going to tell it to you straight. This word inheritance in this context, it means exactly what you think it means. It meant then what it means to us now. That somebody has promised us riches and resources. That they are coming our way. That's how an inheritance works. And in fact, and this is what we're going to start to unpack, we've already started to receive this inheritance. Did anybody watch the Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson fight a couple of weeks ago? Yeah, I mean, when I say watched it, I'm sort of talking like tried to watch it with all of the Netflix suffering from buffering issues, whatever. Look, if you missed it, let me just catch you up. Here's a little catch up. So, there was that. That's what you missed if you didn't tune into the fight. Wow. Anyway, look. What can I say? Interestingly, now Mike Tyson lost. It's fine. The guy's 58 years old, which I don't consider old, but nevertheless, he's not in his prime as far as when he was the world heavyweight champion. So he lost, and this is what he posted following the fight. So this is one of those situations when you lost but still won. I'm grateful for last night. No regrets, getting in the ring one last time. I mean, I almost died in June, had 8 blood transfusions, lost half my blood, 25 pounds in hospital, had to fight to get healthy to fight, so I won. And to have my children see me stand toe-to-toe, finish 8 rounds with a talented fighter half my age in front of a packed Dallas Cowboys stadium. Experience that no man has the right to ask for. I love that line, and I think like I'm gonna steal that line for myself. I lost, but I've already won. When something doesn't go how I wanted it to go, I've got an inheritance. Yeah, okay, I lost, but in the bigger scheme of things, I've already won. When that prayer didn't get answered when I wanted it to or how I wanted it to, well, it's a bummer. But you know what? It feels like I lost, but actually, when I zoom out and I consider God's blessings, I've already won. Think about that. Like make it a t-shirt or do something, poster-writing, but wow. Now, Paul continues, like the guy's just going bonkers with how blessed we are. The Spirit, God's Holy Spirit, is God's guarantee that he will give us the inheritance. Hold that thought, because just in verse 11, he said he has given us the inheritance. But now it looks like he's kind of taken it back and saying, Well, technically he hasn't, but he will. So hang tight. I'm going to do my best to explain that this morning. He will give us the inheritance he promised, and that he has purchased us to be his own people. He did this so we would praise and glorify him. And the way I frame this idea that God has given us our inheritance, and then he will give us his inheritance, is this idea that God's Holy Spirit, while we're here on earth, will give us glimpses, will give us a taste. You know, when we come together as a church and we worship together and we get some Nigerian superpowers going, which, never have too much of that, and you start to feel a joy, like, oh, it feels good. Even if you've had a terrible morning that's a glimpse. That's a glimpse of the fullness of the inheritance, but it's just a glimpse. And God's Holy Spirit makes that possible. When you're going through difficult circumstances, God promises that he will give us a peace that passes all understanding. So when stuff's going wrong and you feel a peace, that's a glimpse. That's a glimpse of the fullness of our inheritance. In other words, while we're here on earth, the fullness of our inheritance has been promised, and God is so good that he allows us to have glimpses as we go on this journey of life. So, in a sense, there's like a bookend to this story. There's like the part over here, which is the stuff that's happened. And then there's the promise over here that's better than the overseas holiday, and this makes us unshakable. Are you sitting down? All right, you need to be. Check this out. Right back at the beginning of creation, of history, and we read about it in the book of Genesis. Then, by the way, flip through your entire Bible, get to the last book. Here's some of the stuff about the stuff that's happened and then the stuff that's promised. Back in the creation story, God says to Adam and Eve about the tree of the goodness of knowledge and evil. The tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Says to them, warns them, instructs them, if you eat its fruit, you're sure to die. And then in Revelation, we read that God promises there'll be no more death. In Genesis chapter 3, we see Satan appear on the scene, and he appears as the deceiver, still working today. And yet, fast forward to Revelation, Satan is removed forever. Hello? Come on, that's better than a trip to Rome, knowing that's in the future. Yeah, all right. Genesis 3. I will, this one he talked about the women giving birth. Sorry about that. Some of you are like, yeah, tell me about it. I will greatly multiply your pain. Yeah, thanks for that, God. Well, the good news is that there will be no more pain of any sort in the future. Genesis chapter 3, cursed is the ground because of you. Revelation 22, no longer will there be a curse upon anything. Genesis chapter 3, the first paradise is closed. Revelation, a new paradise is opened. It looks like this. There's an already, and then there's a not yet. And we live in the middle. We live in the middle. And when you actually start to understand that we're living in the middle, it actually explains a lot of stuff. That we've got a partial inheritance, and then we get glimpses of that, but we've got the promise of God's full inheritance, but we haven't taken hold of that yet, because that's not going to happen while we're here on the earth. While we're here on earth, we live between the already and the not yet. We're living in the middle. Explains why some of the things in your life do not yet make sense. It explains why some of the things you're praying for have not yet happened. It explains why your mind is not yet free of worry, why your body is not yet free of pain, why your relationships are not yet free of tension, and why the world is not yet free of racism. Because we're living in the middle, but we have the promise of God's fullness of his inheritance. So just like my brother-in-law and sister-in-law, who, by the way, will come as no surprise to you, the only thing they're talking about is this upcoming overseas holiday, and I'm saying to them, shut up, I don't want to hear it anymore, because I'm going to be, not really. Remember, there's a not yet. There's a not yet. And actually, that's our inheritance to come, which, by the way, simply put, is heaven. So, Paul elsewhere, when he wrote to the church in Colossae, he wrote this to them: since you've been raised to new life with Christ, set your sights on the realities of heaven, where Christ sits in place of honor at God's right hand. So, let me ask you a question. Have you ever, just allowed your mind to run free and imagined what heaven's going to look like? Has anyone ever played that game in your mind? Yeah, you're like, I hope it's good. Has anyone even sort of just said that to themselves? I hope it's good. Well, let's not assume, but I hope it's good. I hope it's better than this. Some days this is good, but come on now. So when Paul says set your sights on the realities of heaven, what do you picture being the realities of heaven? What comes to mind? Is it this? Oh, wish I'd bought a magazine. Oh, great. Rest of eternity, I'm going to be sitting in my toga, stuck on a cloud with nothing to do. Wish I bought a magazine. That's what some people think heaven's going to be like. We're just going to be floating around on a cloud, wearing our toga. Some people think the realities of heaven, when they think of that's where all the boring people go. So no thanks. This is true. I've been doing this for a while. Some people think that heaven is going to be like a church service that never ends. Now, I love you guys, really. And I love gathering together on a Sunday and worshiping and learning from God's word. But forever? Come on. So when Paul says focus, this is in the future, this is what we've got to look forward to. It's good news. It makes us unshakable. When things don't go our way, we're reminded that God's best is on the way. What does that look like? What are the realities of heaven? Well, here's the thing. We don't know everything about the realities of heaven, but here's some good news. We know some things. God has revealed some things about the realities of heaven. And I said to the team this morning, I've never taught about heaven, ever. And I'm about to do it right now. So you're here. Woohoo! All right. And, not saying I'm going to do a good job, but here we go. So one of the things that God promises in heaven is that we will receive, as part of our inheritance, a new home. And you're like, is that good news? Let me tell you, as a homeowner, when you own a home, things break. Peter, pay close attention. I'm just going to tell you about this week. Just this week. At Marco's home. Just this week. Not this year. Just this week. Ready? This week. This week, at the beginning of the week, I noticed a mysterious chip in the wall of my living area. In a place that you can't actually access without removing a pot plant this big and a couch. And I'm thinking to myself, how in the world did that happen? So I had to patch it and sand it and paint it. That was the beginning of the week. Then I had an exterior light go out called a Sparky. Then I had an exterior power outlet go out, which that power outlet powers my reticulation system. And it was that was when it was 33, 34 degrees. So I started to have some plants going out, if you know what I'm saying. And then we've got this water filter system and there's a grounding wire that's got a clip on the end, and it clips into this thing, and the clip broke off. Now, full disclosure, that may have been a user issue, but anyway, that's just this week. So when I read about God's promising a new home without any DIY requirements, I'm like, come on now, woo! Sorry, Bunnings, but I ain't coming back. I got something better. There ain't no Bunnings in heaven. Because God starts to unpack that heaven has got cities and walls and mountains and water and trees. Does this start to sound like something you've already seen? God's actually, he paints a picture that heaven looks a whole lot like earth, just without the broken bits. Which is how he created it in the beginning, until we stuffed it up. That heaven is more like earth, but minus the broken bits. Speaking of broken bits, God promises that in heaven we're going to get a new body. Oh, woohoo! Come on now. You're like, is that good news? Well, when people say enjoy them while they're young, they're talking about your knees and hips, not your kids. Because here's the thing, having just leveled up to level 56 in life, I've discovered that the older you get, the lamer your excuses for why something's broken in your body get. You know, like, say you're in your 20s and you arrive at work one morning and you're sort of limping. One of your colleagues says, what's wrong? I hurt my knee. Really? How did that happen? Well, just spent the last 2 weeks hiking through the Malaysian hinterland with a 40-kilogram backpack on, and I just slipped on a rock and, just sort of hurt my knee a bit. They're like, wow, that's incredible. And then, as you get a bit older, you're going to work and you're limping. Oh, what's wrong? Oh, I hurt my knee. Really? How did that happen? Well, fact is, I just bent down and then I started to get back up and I thought to myself, this isn't good. You're like, you tweaked your shoulder in your 20s. One of your mates asked, what happened there? Just on the weekend, playing footy. Then as you get older, sore shoulder. Oh, sore shoulder, yeah, how did that happen? I just slept on it. Really? Slept? Really? And this promise of a new body is a promise that we no longer have the pain and the struggle. It's not about body image, it's about the pain and the struggle that invariably happens while we're here on earth. Then, are you sure? New work? Are you sure? I'd like to get back on the cloud in my toga if that's okay. Well, this only makes sense if we understand that work is actually a gift. Work is actually a blessing. But I think, and what my understanding is the work that God promises us in heaven will only be meaningful work. For you, whatever that looks like, meaningful work. And then we go back to and this is where we're getting all these reveals, hence it being called the book of Revelation, these reveals of what heaven actually will look like, a lot like earth but minus the broken bits. God's home is now among his people. He will live with them and they will be his people. God himself will be with them. Someone needs to highlight this in their Bible. He will wipe every tear from their eyes, and as if that's not enough, there'll be no more death or sorrow or crying or pain. All these things are gone forever. No more depression, no more anxiety. That's our inheritance. No more bills, no more debts, no more mortgages, no more compulsory health insurance. That's not going to be our inheritance. No more crimes, no more violence, no more abuse. That's not in our inheritance. Check this out. No more pandemics, no more lockdowns, and no more vaccines. That's in our inheritance. No more abandonment, no more hatred, no more wars. That's our inheritance. And if that's not enough, no more arthritis, radiation, chemotherapy, or wheelchairs, because all these things are gone forever. So if you think an overseas holiday and you've had the experience that's made you unshakable, we're going here forever. Set your sights on the realities of heaven.
We really hope you got a lot out of this message. If you live in the Perth area, we'd love for you to join one of our live experiences. For times and directions, as well as information, head to our website, elevatechurch.me. For those of you beyond the Perth area, we'd love for you to connect with our online experience, which premieres every Sunday via YouTube and Facebook Live, and on demand immediately after. And to partner with us to reach more people by giving financially, head to our website, elevatechurch.me, and also download our Elevate Church AU app.